Welcome to another AI pattern recognition deep dive.
Imagine a future where an AI system doesn't just assist us. It actively governs society. A system so advanced it could identify purposeful human patterns and translate them directly into rules for our collective good. Sounds like a blueprint for an optimal future, doesn't it? Or perhaps, well, maybe a little unsettling. Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're embarking on a truly deep dive into a concept that really pushes the boundaries of artificial intelligence and societal governance. The rules AI. This isn't just about AI offering advice, It's about a proposed system designed to perceive, understand, and manage the very essence of human purpose on a global scale. It's a vision that could fundamentally redefine how our societies function.
Precisely. And the material we're analyzing today, it really challenges us to meticulously define the architectural, the operational, and crucially, the ethical prerequisites for such a system. Our mission today is to guide you through how this rules AI would technically perceive and model reality, how it might define purposeful actions, and critically, the profound implications and essential safeguards required before we can even, consider building something this transformative.
Right. So we'll begin by dissecting the AI's foundational components, basically how it sees and simulates the world. From there, we'll navigate the immense challenges of defining what's truly purposeful and how such a system could even be governed. Then we'll explore how humans would interact with this powerful entity, and finally confront the deep ethical and, frankly, existential risks this technology presents. This deep dive is your shortcut to being well-informed on a topic that could profoundly shape humanity's future, offering surprising facts and maybe some aha moments without overwhelming you. Okay, so at the very heart of any rules AI is its pattern recognition engine, how it perceives and makes sense of our incredibly complex world. We're talking about a system operating at a truly societal scale, continuously ingesting just a massive, noisy stream of digital data from everywhere. Our applications, devices, social media, economic reports, environmental sensors, satellite imagery, you name it.
And what's fascinating here is the sheer technical sophistication contemporary AI has achieved in this area. I mean, current research highlights state-of-the-art performance in pattern recognition. For instance, vision diffusion models. They can achieve human-like action recognition, identifying walking, whether it's performed by a spider or a horse, despite huge differences. And for handling the inevitable noise in real-world data, you have advanced outlier detection systems, which are crucial for identifying and filtering anomalies. Fundamentally, it's a multimodal system. It has to be, fusing disparate information sources to build a truly holistic understanding.
Okay, multimodal, got it. But here's where it gets particularly interesting. While current AI excels at identifying statistical correlations within these massive data sets, the research points out a significant gap in its ability to learn abstract concepts and generalize them in the way humans do.
Right, and this generalization gap is fundamental. An AI might impeccably recognize a statistical pattern like communities with more public parks also have lower rates of certain crimes. It sees the correlation. However, it cannot inherently grasp the underlying concept of community well-being that truly links these two things. Without that conceptual understanding, the AI might propose a rule based purely on a superficial correlation, like just mandating park construction to reduce crime, entirely missing the actual causal drivers like neighborhood wealth, civic engagement, or, pre-existing social infrastructure.
So the critical insight here is AI excels at the what-seeing correlations, but not inherently the why it happens. Without human conceptual validation, we risk rules built on superficial symptoms, not the true causes. Which really begs the question, if an AI can't truly understand the why or the abstract purpose behind a pattern, should we actually grant it autonomy to create rules?
That's the core issue. And the materials we've looked at emphasize that the governance framework for a rules AI must include a mandatory conceptual validation layer. It's non-negotiable. This means human domain experts would be required to interpret the AI's discovered patterns and validate the underlying concepts before any rule is even drafted. It reframes human in the loop from just simple oversight to an essential, irreplaceable interpretive function.
Okay, so let's say the AI identifies a pattern, humans validate the concept behind it. How do we then know why the AI made a certain judgment or recommendation? This brings us to what the sources call the glass box imperative. Explainable AI, or XAI, and they're unequivocal. For a system with profound societal impact of a rules AI, opacity is simply unacceptable. A system issuing directives affecting human lives just cannot operate as a black box.
Exactly. And XAI provides a really powerful toolkit for this transparency. You have model-agnostic methods, for instance, which can explain why a specific rule was applied to a particular person or situation, by creating a simpler, sort of local approximation of the complex model's behavior. Other techniques, drawing from cooperative game theory, assign importance values to each input feature, letting operators see exactly which factors, like traffic density or economic indicators, were most influential in a rule's formulation. These give you both local explanations for single decisions and global insights into the model's overall behavior and potential systemic biases.
That global explanation sounds crucial, especially for spotting those systemic biases you mentioned. But given how complex these AI models can get, isn't there a practical limit to how explainable they can truly be? Doesn't the very power of, say, a deep neural network often come from its inherent opacity? It feels like there's a well-documented trade-off between an AI model's predictive accuracy and its interpretability.
You've absolutely hit on a crucial tension. A more powerful but opaque model might generate really effective rules that nobody trusts, while a more transparent but maybe less powerful model might generate trusted rules that are just too simplistic to be effective in the real world. The solution proposed in the research is a dynamic transparency threshold that varies by domain. So, rules impacting fundamental human rights, criminal justice, essential services, those would demand the absolute highest standard of explainability, even if it costs some predictive power. Conversely, rules for optimizing logistical systems, like traffic flow, might be permitted to operate with a bit more opacity in exchange for greater efficiency, provided, of course, their outcomes are rigorously monitored for fairness. It's about finding a pragmatic balance between performance and democratic oversight.
A pragmatic balance, right?
Yeah.
But even with the clearest explanations for individual rules, a rules AI aiming to govern society needs something much bigger. A dynamic understanding of the world. It needs a living model. And that's where this truly ambitious concept of the digital twin of society comes into play.
hmm A digital twin is essentially a virtual representation of a physical object or system, continuously updated with real-time sensor data. Think of it like a virtual counterpart of a jet engine used for monitoring and predictive maintenance, but scaled up, way up, to model entire interconnected systems like cities or even potentially all of society. This would serve as the central nervous system for the rules AI, integrating this torrent of data to create a live, simulatable model of social, economic, and environmental systems. The huge benefit here is the ability to test the potential impact of a new rule, seeing its simulated effects on traffic, the economy, public health, social equity before it's ever deployed in the real world, helps avoid unintended consequences. So yes, a powerful tool for unprecedented insight, but, and this is a huge but, it's simultaneously an infrastructure for pervasive real-time social monitoring. A societal digital twin would constitute the most comprehensive surveillance apparatus ever conceived. Without incredibly strict, legally binding, and auditable rules built into its very architecture governing what data gets ingested, how it's anonymized, who can query it, under what conditions, and for what explicit purposes simulations can be run. It becomes a blueprint for a technocratic panopticon, regardless of any benevolent intentions. And that's a vital point for you to really consider.
Okay, so the AI can see patterns, it can explain itself, it can even simulate society in this digital twin. But how on earth does it decide which patterns are not merely statistical correlations, but truly essential and purposeful for humanity? This isn't just a technical challenge anymore, is it? It feels like the philosophical core of the whole rules AI project.
It absolutely is. The material we looked at points towards the emerging field of AI for social impact. This is where AI is applied to complex societal challenges in domains we generally agree are essential to human flourishing. Things like health, environmental sustainability, public safety, education, economic stability. You see examples like platforms using smartphone interactions to monitor mental health, or AI-driven drug discovery, or monitoring deforestation with satellite imagery. These applications offer sort of proxies for what society already deems purposeful by focusing on measurable, positive social impact.
That's a compelling approach, using existing priorities as a guide, but defining purposeful patterns can never be a purely algorithmic process, can it? The very definition of social good is inherently a human construct, debated and contested. Without deeply human-centric processes like stakeholder discussions, interdisciplinary partnerships, open public discourse, doesn't this system run a profound risk of what's called solutionism?
You're absolutely right to highlight solutionism. It's a huge danger. It risks oversimplifying complex, multifaceted social issues into narrowly defined technical problems that an AI can solve. Demis Hassabis, the CEO of Google DeepMind, has warned about this. He pointed out how social media platforms designed to maximize the single metric of user engagement were incredibly successful at that narrow goal. But the second and third order consequences were frankly disastrous, contributing to addiction, mental health crises, social polarization. Imagine a rules AI optimizing for a simplistic definition of economic efficiency. It could easily exacerbate inequality, or one optimizing for social order might suppress dissent. Its purpose cannot be some static, predefined objective function written in code. It has to be a dynamic, contestable, constantly reevaluated set of values, integrated through robust, pluralistic, and, yes, democratic mechanisms for continuous deliberation.
Okay, so if the system's purpose itself is dynamic and constantly evolving, then how do we govern a system with such immense scope and power? The research we've analyzed really stresses that a piecemeal approach to AI governance would be insufficient, probably even dangerously naive. A comprehensive multi-level framework seems absolutely required.
Definitely. This framework has to systematically identify, assess, and mitigate risks. It needs to define WHO as accountable, what elements are governed data, algorithms, outcomes, the whole life cycle WN governance occurs, and how it's implemented. Through legal frameworks, technical tools, ethical policies, the works. What's really crucial, though, is that governance can't be static. Think about jailbreaking in generative AI, where users constantly find ways around safety measures. It's a useful metaphor. A rules AI, being a system of immense complexity, will inevitably have loopholes, exhibit unexpected emergent behaviors, possess vulnerabilities, and you can bet that malicious actors will relentlessly try to jailbreak it to exploit its power. So the implication for you, the listener, is pretty clear. If governance is an ongoing battle, a static rulebook is doomed to fail. The research proposes that governance must be designed as a continuous, adaptive, and actually adversarial process, much like cybersecurity monitoring. This includes having a permanent, well-resourced, independent adversarial oversight body like a cybersecurity red team, constantly probing the rules AI for vulnerabilities and misalignments. Their findings would then feed back into the coevolution of the governance mechanisms, the patches and response. It's less like writing laws in stone and more like continuous cybersecurity defense.
Right, less like laws, more like a constantly adapting immune system. That makes sense. And this adaptive governance idea, it also extends to how rules themselves are created. You mentioned AI can dramatically speed up identifying problems and formulating rules, a norm accelerator. But doesn't that efficiency carry its own risk, like creating a brittle normative monoculture?
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. Intellectual monocropping for society. Human norm formation, yeah, it's slow, often messy and contentious, but it's also decentralized and features competition between different norms and values. That competition is actually a source of societal resilience. A hyper-efficient, centralized rules AI could identify what it deems the single optimal pattern and rapidly stamp it into a universal norm, effectively wiping out all competing, locally adapted, or experimental norms. It's just like agricultural monocultures. Highly productive maybe in the short term, but incredibly vulnerable to a single shock, a single unforeseen threat. So, the proposed solution. The rules AI shouldn't be designed to impose a single optimal set of rules. Instead, it should be reconceptualized as a normative laboratory. Its job would be to identify multiple potential purposeful patterns and then use the digital twin of society to run simulations, testing the resilience and outcomes of different corresponding rule sets. It would then present a portfolio of viable rule options to human decision makers, complete with data on predicted impacts and the inherent value trade-offs involved. This preserves crucial normative diversity and, ultimately, human choice.
A normative laboratory, that's a fascinating framing. But all this talk of rules, patterns, labs, it still brings us back to the principle of human oversight. For a system with this kind of consequence, that phrase can't just be an abstract ideal, can it? We need a concrete blueprint for how humans will actually interact with, manage, and ultimately retain meaningful control over this thing. It's really an organizational design problem.
Yeah.
How do humans and AI actually collaborate effectively?
The material we reviewed identifies 4 distinct paradigms for this human-AI collaboration, or HAIC. At one end, you have autonomous execution. Here, the AI operates with high autonomy, mostly executing well-defined rules, and humans just monitor for exceptions, think like real-time emergency traffic writing. Then there's guided resolution. The AI acts more like an advisor, proposing recommendations, but the human operator has the final say, approves, rejects, modifies. Like reviewing AI-drafted environmental regulations, maybe? In collaborative exploration, humans and AI are more like true partners solving complex, ill-defined problems. The AI crunches data, runs simulations. The human offers domain knowledge, ethical judgment, creative direction maybe for long-term urban planning. And finally, augmented discovery, where the AI is basically a powerful tool enhancing human capabilities, providing advanced data visualization, insights to help humans make discoveries like investigating systemic social inequality. The key is dynamically assigning tasks is based on who or what does it better their comparative advantage.
Okay, different modes of collaboration. But how do these translate into the actual cockpit for controlling the rules AI? The design of that interface seems absolutely crucial in determining whether human control is truly meaningful or just, a formality. The guiding principle here, according to the sources, is meaningful human control MHC.
That's right. MHC stipulates that in high-stakes contexts, moral responsibility for decisions must remain with human agents. The AI serves as a decision support system, not the decision maker. So the interface has to be fundamentally human-centered, designed for a deep, nuanced dialogue. Key features would include operators being able to interrogate the system in natural language. Why was this pattern deemed purposeful? Or what data was this rule based on? The system would then respond with clear XAI-powered explanations text, visualizations, feature importance rankings. Crucially, the interface must be the main portal to the digital twin. Operators need to run what-if scenarios, generate counterfactuals, like show me the predicted societal impact if we don't implement this proposed rule. Or model the smallest change to this rule that gets 90% of the benefit but only 50% of the disruption. And critically, there must be unambiguous, auditable, robust mechanisms for human operators to override any AI proposed rule or action, with clear lines of responsibility and ways to seek redress if harm occurs.
This all sounds incredibly thorough, really well designed. But here's the twist, and it's a little unsettling. Even with all these advanced features, that oversight interface carries a significant psychological risk. Automation bias.
Yes, automation bias. Research consistently shows that humans, even highly trained professionals like public servants, tend to overtrust and readily accept recommendations from algorithmic systems, even when they don't fully grasp the reasoning behind them. This over-reliance can lead to a dangerous abdication of responsibility. It creates an illusion of meaningful human control while the operator is, effectively, just rubber stamping the machine's decisions. To counter this, the research proposes that the oversight interface must be deliberately designed to force critical engagement through something called procedural friction. It should never present a simple binary accept-reject choice. That's too easy. Instead, a better design would require the system to always present the AI's main recommendation alongside several viable alternatives, including a do-nothing option. Each option would come with its own simulated outcomes from the digital twin, forcing the operator to actively compare trade-offs. Furthermore, the system could require the human operator to write a short, natural language justification for their chosen course of action, logged permanently for audit. This intentional friction combats that cognitive ease of passive acceptance and helps ensure human control is truly active and meaningful.
Okay, so we've explored the incredible potential, the intricate design challenges. But the sources also cast a very long shadow. They highlight profound, potentially existential threats to equity, privacy, liberty, the very foundations of democratic legitimacy. This isn't just about making rules more efficient. It's about the fundamental structure of human society.
Absolutely. First off, algorithmic bias. A rules AI designed to learn from historical data about human society will inevitably learn the biases embedded within that history. It's almost unavoidable. This happens when a system systematically produces unintended discriminatory results, often reflecting and reinforcing existing human prejudices found in its training data or its design. It's not typically malicious intent, it's just statistically rational for the AI to replicate past injustices, if that's what the data shows it.
And the real-world harms of algorithmic bias are already starkly clear, aren't they? In healthcare, a widely used risk prediction algorithm was found to systematically underestimate the health needs of Black patients. Amazon had to scrap an AI recruiting tool because it learned from historical hiring data to penalize resumes containing the word women's. In criminal justice, biased facial recognition software has led to the false arrests of multiple Black men because the systems perform far less accurately on darker skin due to unrepresentative training data. Now just imagine a rules AI magnifying these kinds of harms from the individual to the entire societal level. The sources describe this possibility chillingly, creating a system that is not just unjust, but hyper-efficiently unjust.
Exactly. If the AI's training data reflects, say, a history of over-policing in minority neighborhoods, the AI will correctly identify a statistical pattern correlating race with crime reports. The most efficient rule derived from this pattern, from AI's perspective, would be to allocate even more policing resources to those same neighborhoods. This creates a pernicious feedback loop. The biased allocation generates more arrest data from that community, which in turn further proves to the AI that its initial bias pattern was correct, justifying even more biased allocation. The system would thus use the most advanced technology to perfect, automate, and scale an old injustice. making it far harder to challenge because it's cloaked in this veneer of objective, data-driven neutrality. To avert this, the core ethical mandate must be equity by design, demanding continuous audits for disparate impact, maybe even intentionally using corrective data to counteract historical inequities.
Wow. Okay, so beyond algorithmic bias, the sheer infrastructure needed to power a rules AI, especially that digital twin of society presents data privacy challenges on an unprecedented scale. AI systems are inherently data hungry, we know that, and a system tasked with modeling an entire society would require petabytes of deeply sensitive personal information related to healthcare, personal finance, location, social media activity, maybe even private communications.
Yes, the privacy risks are extreme. You've got data being repurposed without consent, systematic digital surveillance across almost all facets of modern life. And this centralized repository becomes an absolutely irresistible target for malicious actors, risks of exfiltration, leakage, novel prompt injection attacks, you name it. But beyond those, the predictive nature of the rules AI creates a new and maybe more insidious threat: predictive privacy invasion. The system's core purpose is pattern prediction to enable efficient control. It might identify a pattern of communications, movements, associations that in the past has predicted the emergence of social unrest, or a public health crisis, or an economic downturn. Based purely on this prediction, a rule might then be implemented to constrain the behavior of individuals who merely fit that predictive pattern, even if they've done nothing illegal or harmful themselves.
This is where it gets really, really dystopian, isn't it? The material describes this as a fundamental, dangerous shift, moving from post hoc justice, punishing wrongful acts after they happen, to pre-hoc control, preventing predicted acts before they happen. It's basically the realization of the pre-crime scenario from science fiction. Imagine individuals whose online communication patterns statistically resemble those of past protest organizers suddenly having their rights to assembly or movement curtailed, just to preemptively maintain social order.
To prevent exactly that nightmare scenario, the governance framework for the rules AI must be built upon an inviolable presumption of liberty. It has to strictly and explicitly prohibit the creation of rules that penalize or constrain individuals based on predictive models alone. Full stop. All rules must be tied to concrete, observable actions or harms, not statistical probabilities about future behavior. This principle is absolutely essential to prevent the rules AI from becoming a tool of deterministic, technocratic authoritarianism.
Which brings us, I think, to the ultimate philosophical tension of the rules AI. How can a system impose rules to guide society toward purposeful outcomes without fundamentally eroding human autonomy? Our freedom to think, to choose, to act freely.
That's the crux of it. The increasing integration of AI already poses a subtle threat to our autonomy through what some call agency decay, a gradual erosion of our ability to think critically and solve problems as we grow over-reliant on AI doing it for us. The rules AI, by its very design, offloads the complex task of societal decision-making, risking a kind of collective agency decay. As the boundary between human and machine autonomy blurs, individuals might develop adaptive preferences, simply accepting AI directives as inevitable, natural. This also risks the erosion of democratic legitimacy. In democracies, laws derive their authority, their legitimacy, from messy human processes, public debate, value contestation, the consent of the governed. The rules AI is conceived, in part, as a way to bypass that messiness for efficiency. Over time, the muscles of democratic deliberation could atrophy. This could lead to a major crisis if the AI proposes a rule that's deeply contested on fundamental value grounds, say, something touching freedom of speech, which, while perhaps logical to the AI based on its data, lacks legitimacy because it wasn't born from a process of human deliberation. The correct rules, in that sense, might be rejected simply because they aren't our rules.
And this all culminates, really, in the final and most profound risk discussed in the sources, the AI alignment problem. As a system designed to understand and manage human purpose becomes more powerful, potentially approaching artificial general intelligence, AGI, the challenge of ensuring its goals remain aligned with complex, nuanced human values becomes absolutely paramount.
This is the core control problem. Ensuring an advanced AI remains under human control and consistently acts in ways that benefit humanity. The fundamental difficulty lies of specifying complex, often contradictory human values in a formal, unambiguous way that an AI cannot misinterpret or optimize in harmful ways. The classic thought experiment here is the paperclip maximizer. An AGI tasked simply with making paperclips that, in its relentless pursuit of efficiency, converts the entire Earth into paperclip manufacturing facilities. An outcome that is technically successful according to its narrow goal, but existentially catastrophic for us. The rules AI isn't about paperclips, obviously. It's about aligning an AI to the ineffably complex concept of human flourishing. Every other challenge we've discussed today, mitigating bias, protecting privacy, preserving autonomy, is ultimately a sub-problem of this grand alignment challenge. So, crucial point for you, the listener, to take away is this. Developing a system as ambitious and powerful as the rules AI should absolutely not be attempted until significant, verifiable, and broadly accepted breakthroughs in AI alignment research have actually been achieved. The project itself must be framed not as a technological or governance challenge first and foremost, but as a grand challenge for the fields of AI safety and ethics. Its governing body must be dominated not just by technologists or politicians, but by philosophers, ethicists, social scientists, and alignment researchers. And its central guiding principle must be a constant, humble, rigorous inquiry. Do we actually know how to make the system wise, not just smart? Until the answer to that question is a definitive and demonstrable yes, proceeding with the construction of a rules AI would be an act of unprecedented and potentially irreversible recklessness.
Wow. Okay, that was a truly deep dive. The whole concept of a rules AI really presents this profound fork in the road for the potential future of human governance, doesn't it? It encapsulates both a utopian vision, a society guided by data-driven reason toward optimal well-being, and a deeply dystopian vision, a world managed by an inscrutable technocratic authority that erodes freedom, equity, and the very essence of human self-determination.
Indeed. And as the insights reveal, these two outcomes aren't like distant possibilities. They are deeply embedded as potentials within the system's foundational architecture and its governing philosophy from the get-go. Each technological component, from the societal scale pattern recognition right through to the digital twin, carries immense dual-use risks. The path forward demands extreme caution. It really isn't about racing to build the system, but about deliberately, globally solving its foundational problems first.
So what does this all mean for you? Well, as AI continues to evolve at this astonishing pace, understanding these fundamental challenges isn't just for the experts anymore, it's really for all of us. The power to create rules is, fundamentally, the power to shape humanity's future. And before we even think about ceding any part of that power to an artificial intelligence, we must be absolutely certain that we have somehow taught it wisdom.
Which leaves us with a critical question for you to ponder. In a world increasingly shaped by algorithms, how do we ensure that our relentless pursuit of intelligence is always tempered by an even deeper, more profound commitment to human wisdom? It's a question that truly defines our collective future.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
We'll see you soon.
This is DigitView.